Long before the samurai became the iconic warriors of Japan, the nation was in turmoil. The early centuries of Japanese history were defined by shifting power struggles between aristocrats, landowners, and military forces. By the late Heian period, 794–1185, Japan's imperial court began losing control over the provinces, and powerful landowners, known as daimyo, started relying on skilled warriors to defend their territories. These warriors were the first samurai class, born not just from necessity but from the forging fire of war. As their numbers grew, so did their reputation. Unlike the hired mercenaries of other lands, the samurai were more than just fighters. They were disciplined warriors who followed strict codes of loyalty and honor. They served their lords, the daimyo, with unwavering devotion, prepared to give their lives for the cause. This was not just about protecting land or wealth. It was about duty, family honor, and an emerging warrior ethos that would shape Japan's destiny. Over time, the samurai became more than just soldiers. They became a class of their own. With privileges granted by their lords, they were given land titles and power. Their role extended beyond the battlefield, influencing politics, law, and governance. But with great power came great responsibility, and thus a philosophy of strict discipline and self-control emerged to guide them. This philosophy would later be known as Bushidō, the way of the warrior, and it was this very code that would elevate the samurai beyond mere fighters into symbols of unwavering duty, unbreakable will, and a spiritual connection to their blades. The rise of the samurai class. As the samurai evolved, so did Japan. By the late 12th century, the country was no longer ruled by the emperor alone. A new form of government emerged, the shogunate, a military-led rule where the shogun, the supreme commander, held real power, while the emperor remained a figurehead. This marked the rise of samurai dominance. Under the first shogun Minamoto no Yoritomo, the samurai became the ruling class, shaping the nation's fate for centuries. With the establishment of the Kamakura shogunate, 1185–1333, samurai warriors became the backbone of Japan's military and political structure. They lived by a rigid code, trained in martial arts, and upheld loyalty above all else. Unlike the knights of medieval Europe, whose loyalty could be bought, the samurai swore unbreakable oaths to their lords. Betrayal was unthinkable. Death was preferable to dishonor. Their influence continued to grow, but so did the conflicts that defined their era. The Mongol invasions of Japan in the 13th century tested the resilience of the samurai. Against overwhelming odds, they fought with relentless courage, and when all seemed lost, Japan was saved by what the Japanese called kamikaze, the divine wind, a typhoon that obliterated the Mongol fleet. This only deepened the samurai's spiritual belief that they were the chosen warriors of their land. With every battle, every victory, and every sacrifice, the samurai cemented themselves, not just as warriors, but as the very soul of Japan. And at the heart of their way of life was Bushidō, the code that defined them. Bushidō, the way of the warrior. Bushidō was more than just a set of rules. It was a way of life, influenced by Zen Buddhism, Confucianism, and Shinto beliefs. Bushidō emphasized loyalty, self-discipline, and the acceptance of death. A samurai was expected to be fearless, facing battle with absolute resolve. To die in service of one's lord was the ultimate honor. This philosophy extended beyond combat. A true samurai mastered not just the sword, but also the mind. Poetry, calligraphy, tea ceremonies, and even flower arrangement were seen as essential practices. To be a samurai was to be a refined warrior embodying both power and grace. Central to Bushidō was the concept of seppuku, or ritual suicide. If a samurai failed in his duty or brought dishonor upon himself, he was expected to end his own life with dignity. It was a brutal but deeply respected tradition, one that reinforced the idea that honor was worth more than life itself. Yet Bushidō was not just about death. It was about living with purpose, honor, and unwavering resolve. And as the centuries passed, the samurai carried this philosophy into the heart of Japan's greatest battles. Samurai warfare and weaponry. No warrior is complete without his weapons, and for the samurai, the sword was the soul. The katana, a curved blade of exceptional sharpness, was more than just a tool for battle. It was a symbol of the samurai's honor and spirit. Forged through a meticulous process, each katana was unique, embodying the craftsmanship and legacy of its wielder. Beyond the sword, the samurai were also masters of the bow, yumi, the spear, yari, and the naginata, a deadly polearm. In battle, they fought with strategy and discipline, using formations that could decide the fate of entire wars. Yet warfare was not just about weapons, it was about strategy. Samurai generals such as Oda Nobunaga and Toyotomi Hideyoshi revolutionized military tactics, leading Japan into a new era of warfare. Their cunning, ruthlessness, and ambition reshaped the nation, but even the mightiest warriors could not fight forever. As Japan entered the Edo period, peace reigned, and the samurai's role began to change. The samurai during the Edo period. As the dawn of the 17th century arrived, Japan entered a new chapter in its history. After centuries of war and political upheaval, the country was finally unified under the Tokugawa Tokugawa shogunate in 1603. This marked the beginning of the Edo period, 1603–1868, an era of peace, stability, and strict social order. For the samurai, however, this peace was a double-edged sword. With no wars to fight, their role as warriors diminished, forcing them to adapt to a changing society. The battlefield that had once defined them was now silent, and their swords, once their lifeblood, became more symbolic than functional. During this time, the samurai transitioned from warriors to administrators and scholars. Many took on bureaucratic roles, managing the affairs of their daimyo lords and enforcing the shogun's rule. Others turned to intellectual pursuits, studying Confucian philosophy, calligraphy, and poetry. The way of the samurai evolved into a way of thought rather than combat, reinforcing ideas of loyalty, honor, and discipline in civil service. The concept of Bushidō, the warrior's code, remained alive, but it became more focused on morality and self-improvement rather than martial prowess. Despite their elevated status in society, the Edo period was not kind to all samurai. Without war to justify their privileges, many found themselves in financial decline. The rigid class structure of Tokugawa rule meant that samurai could not easily engage in commerce, leaving many impoverished. Some became ronin, masterless samurai, wandering the land in search of purpose. The most famous among them were the 47 ronin who avenged their fallen lord in an act of unwavering loyalty, cementing their place in Japanese legend. Yet even in peace, the samurai remained symbols of power and tradition. Their image was romanticized, their ideals revered, but change was on the horizon. As Japan began opening its doors to the modern world in the 19th century, the samurai would soon face their greatest challenge: the end of their very existence as a ruling class. The days of the sword were numbered, and a new era was about to begin: the fall of the samurai. By the 17th century, Japan had unified under the Tokugawa shogunate, and an age of peace had begun. With no wars to fight, many samurai found themselves without purpose. They became bureaucrats, scholars, or retainers with little real power. Their once feared swords were now ceremonial, a relic of a bygone age. However, the samurai spirit never faded. As Japan opened its doors to the modern world in the late 19th century, the samurai faced their greatest challenge: survival. With the Meiji Restoration, 1868, the samurai class was officially abolished. Guns replaced swords, and modern military forces took their place. Yet the end of the samurai was not truly an end. It was a transformation. Their legacy endured, their code lived on, and their influence shaped Japan's modern identity. The samurai legacy in modern Japan. Even today, the spirit of the samurai is woven into Japanese culture. Martial arts, discipline, honor, and dedication to craft remain deeply ingrained in Japan's values. From sumo wrestlers to corporate leaders, the ideals of Bushidō persist, shaping the way of life in the land of the rising sun. Samurai films, anime, and literature continue to capture the world's imagination, reminding us of the warriors who once stood as the heart and soul of Japan. Their armor may have rusted, their swords may have dulled, but their legend will never fade. The samurai were more than just warriors. They were the embodiment of Japan's soul. Their discipline, honor, and unwavering resolve left an indelible mark on history. Though the age of the samurai has passed, their legacy remains immortal. If you found this journey through samurai history fascinating, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more incredible stories from history.